Harry wasn't just left off a guest list for the FIFA World Cup final.
Prince Harry, a man who would have been expected before his move stateside to be one of the faces of the FIFA World Cup being held in the United States of America, has been shut out, and we're hearing it's in large part because of his personal feud with footballing legend David Beckham.
Reports suggest he was completely shut out, and there's a big difference between those two things. Being uninvited can sound like a routine administrative decision. Being shut out points to something much more deliberate where a person's presence is no longer seen as an advantage because of who else is involved and what they represent. That's the picture being painted by the latest reports surrounding Harry and the World Cup final. What makes this story stand out isn't simply the fact that a high-profile event allegedly passed on inviting him. Big events turn people down all the time for countless reasons. The bigger issue is what this specific situation may reveal about the dramatic shift in Harry's public, social, and business standing over the last 5 years. According to the reporting, major international events appear to be making clear choices about which famous faces add value to their brand and which ones no longer carry the same influence.
Meghan Markle.
Yes, my favorite.
A force for good?
Well, I think a force for a perpetual embarrassment. Perpetual.
Are you happy to have her back in the United States?
We are not. We'd love to do a trade.
And one name keeps popping up in this story: David Beckham. That detail has people talking because it adds another layer to a relationship that once looked incredibly close. Back in 2018, David and Victoria Beckham were front-row guests at Harry and Meghan's wedding, treated as respected members of the inner circle. Now attention is turning to how things reportedly unraveled, including claims about an incident in Australia that may have damaged whatever goodwill remained. What started as whispers years ago has slowly grown into a much bigger story, and the latest World Cup reports have pushed it back into the spotlight in a major way.
Prince Harry has not been invited to the FIFA World Cup final. And insiders tell Naughty But Nice the reason is simple: David Beckham. The soccer icon is expected to be one of the biggest stars at the event, while Harry won't be there at all.
The bench was supposed to mark Meghan's arrival as a successful author, but 5 years later, its anniversary has sparked fresh discussion about what that project may have revealed at the time. Looking back, some commentators now see it as an early sign of challenges that would later become much more visible in both the commercial and public arena. Whether that interpretation is fair or not, the conversation has definitely picked up speed this week. First, though, there's the World Cup story, because the reports making headlines include some very specific details. The FIFA World Cup is being hosted in the United States. Harry lives in the United States. Based on the level of visibility he had just a few years ago, many people would have expected him to be connected to an event of this size and global reach. He had international recognition, strong media attention, major celebrity connections, and a long history of appearing at high-profile sporting events alongside athletes, public figures, and entertainment stars.
The snub carries extra sting because Harry and Meghan Markle were once close friends with David and Victoria Beckham. That relationship unravelled after the Sussexes allegedly accused the Beckhams of leaking stories to the British press. David never forgave it, says a source. The accusation destroyed the trust. Once that happened, there was no coming back.
Not long ago, the assumption might have been that Harry would be right in the middle of the action. Front row appearances, major photo opportunities, and the kind of celebrity presence that naturally attracts headlines. That was the image many associated with him during earlier years when public interest around the Sussex story was at its peak. But according to recent reporting, that is not what happened here. One name keeps appearing in discussions surrounding the event: David Beckham. Reports claim Harry was not invited to the FIFA World Cup final.
David Beckham went all the way to Australia And Harry said that he'd got no time to see him, he doesn't want to see him, he's too busy. So there was Harry sort of getting ready to be with a football match, a very important one, and he was left very rudely for David Beckham. And I think, he is the king of football and all the rest of it.
While Beckham is expected to be one of the biggest attractions at the tournament, sources quoted in the reporting describe the situation as more than simple guest list logistics. The suggestion is that organisers have made clear decisions about which public figures best represent the image they want to promote. In the world of football, many observers believe one star has long held a special place at the centre of that spotlight, and that figure is David Beckham. That idea that football picked its prince is getting attention because it points to something bigger than a simple disagreement between former friends. The discussion is no longer just about personalities or a social fallout. It's about how major global events decide which public figures strengthen their image and which ones may bring extra controversy or distraction. That's a much larger conversation than a personal dispute. When organizations behind massive international events make those kinds of decisions, they are usually based on long-term public perception rather than one isolated incident. These judgments often reflect years of reputation building, public reaction, media coverage, and the overall message a person's presence sends. That's why the World Cup story is being viewed by many observers as a sign of a broader trend, rather than just another celebrity headline. According to the reports, the issues between the Sussexes and the Beckhams were already deeply rooted long before the current World Cup situation came into focus. Sources claim the reported exclusion wasn't driven by anything recent, but instead traces back to a breakdown in trust that allegedly happened years ago and was never fully repaired. The reports point to accusations that David and Victoria Beckham were sharing information with British media outlets. Those claims, according to multiple accounts, became a major turning point in the relationship. The Beckhams were widely viewed as close allies at one stage, which made the situation even more dramatic. Reports suggest the accusations severely damaged trust between the two sides, and once that trust was gone, the relationship reportedly never recovered. If Palace Insider is your source for these kinds of stories, the deeper details are often where the real drama is found. It's not just about the headline everyone sees, it's about the long-term patterns, the 5-year look back, and the bigger picture that can easily get missed in the daily news cycle. If you enjoy this style of analysis, hitting the like button is a simple way to support the channel and help it reach more people who follow these stories closely. The Beckham dispute is especially interesting because it fits into a wider debate about how negative media coverage has been explained over the years. Rather than viewing criticism as coming from many different places at once, attention has often focused on identifying a specific person, group, or institution believed to be behind unfavorable stories. At the time the allegations involving the Beckhams surfaced, Harry and Meghan were among the most heavily discussed public figures in the world. Their story was generating non-stop headlines, intense public interest, and an enormous amount of commentary from countless directions. The scale of attention surrounding them was hard to ignore. Reports, opinions, and claims were coming from a wide range of sources. Some originated from people connected to royal circles. Others came from individuals who had known the couple through different stages of their lives, and still others were attributed to sources described as close to them. On top of that, there was the constant attention that follows any major public figure caught in a wave of public controversy and media fascination. The argument that such a massive amount of media coverage was being controlled or directed by one specific celebrity couple has always been questioned by many observers. Looking at the scale of reporting surrounding Harry and Meghan at the time, countless journalists, commentators, insiders, and public voices were discussing the story from different angles. The idea that one couple alone could be responsible for all of it is something many analysts have found difficult to accept. Before the allegations surfaced, the Beckhams were widely seen as friendly figures within Harry and Meghan's circle. They attended the royal wedding, moved within many of the same social and celebrity networks, and appeared to have a positive relationship with the Sussexes. There was little public evidence suggesting they would have any reason to create negative stories about people they were believed to know personally. According to reports, the accusations placed David and Victoria Beckham at the center of a controversy they strongly rejected. Sources cited in recent coverage claim that David was particularly upset because he reportedly felt he was being blamed for something he believed he had no involvement in. That kind of situation can create serious damage, especially when trust is already under pressure. One story that continues to attract attention involves a reported meeting that never happened in Australia. According to accounts discussed this week, David Beckham made a significant trip and hoped to see Harry in person. Sources suggest he wanted to maintain communication and preserve what had once been viewed as a genuine friendship, despite the growing tensions surrounding the allegations. But the meeting reportedly never took place. Harry was said to be heavily committed to other obligations, including preparations connected to a major football event happening at the time. Whatever the reasons, reports claim there was no opportunity for the two men to sit down and talk things through. According to the sources behind these accounts, that moment became a major turning point. The original accusations had already created strain, but the Australia incident is described as the event that truly locked in the separation between them. Some observers believe disagreements can sometimes be resolved through direct conversation, but reports suggest that chance never came, and the relationship reportedly continued to drift further apart from that point forward. According to the reports being discussed, it wasn't just the accusation itself that caused damage. For some observers, the combination of the allegation and the reported missed meeting in Australia created a much bigger problem. The accusation could be interpreted as saying, "You betrayed me," while the failed opportunity to meet face-to-face reportedly sent another message entirely: that repairing the relationship was not being treated as a priority. Whether that interpretation is fair or not, sources claim it had a lasting impact on how the situation was viewed. In the years that followed, the Beckhams appeared to develop increasingly visible connections with Prince William and Princess Catherine. Public appearances, charitable projects, and sporting initiatives have often placed David Beckham alongside William, generating positive headlines and reinforcing that association. At the same time, Catherine has frequently been seen wearing Victoria Beckham's fashion designs at high-profile events, giving the brand valuable exposure and prestige within royal circles. What makes this shift stand out is how public it has been. People who have followed both stories over the years have watched one relationship seemingly grow stronger, while another reportedly moved further apart. The contrast has been difficult to miss, especially as each side has continued to make headlines for very different reasons. Now, according to recent reporting, the World Cup story has become one of the clearest examples yet of where those changing relationships appear to have landed. David Beckham is expected to be one of the most recognizable figures connected to one of the biggest sporting events on the planet, while Harry's absence has become a major talking point in media coverage surrounding the event. Subscribe to Palace Insider so you never miss the stories we break down next, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe the allegations involving the Beckhams were supported by convincing evidence? Or do you think the situation was based on a misunderstanding of where information was actually coming from? That debate continues to spark strong opinions even years later. Now, attention turns to the bench. This week marks 5 years since Meghan's children's book was released, and recent retrospectives have reignited discussion about what that project may reveal about the wider commercial journey of the Sussex brand over the last several years. The bench was released on June 8, 2021, and on paper, the timing looked almost perfect for a major book launch. Many of the conditions publishers hoped for appeared to be lining up at once. COVID-era restrictions were easing in many places, consumer spending patterns were shifting, and book sales remained strong as readers continued habits they had developed during lockdown periods. At the same time, Meghan was receiving an extraordinary amount of global attention. Just a few months earlier, the Oprah Winfrey interview had become one of the most talked-about media events of the year. The interview sparked intense debate, non-stop headlines, and widespread public discussion across both sides of the Atlantic. For weeks, Harry and Meghan were among the most visible public figures in the news cycle. The project also had the backing of Penguin Random House, one of the biggest publishing companies in the world. Reports linked the Sussexes to a major multi-book agreement said to be worth millions of dollars, creating expectations that any new release connected to their names would attract significant interest. With that level of publishing support, media attention, and public awareness, many industry watchers expected the bench to make a noticeable impact. According to reported sales figures, however, the book sold approximately 3,212 copies during its first week in the United Kingdom and did not enter the UK official top 50 chart. Those results quickly became a talking point among commentators who were analysing the project's commercial performance. What made the numbers especially surprising to some observers was the combination of factors surrounding the launch. Meghan's name recognition was enormous. Media outlets around the world were covering nearly every Sussex-related development, and the promotional power behind the release was substantial. Given all of that attention, critics argued that the outcome fell short of expectations, while supporters pointed out that children's books often operate under different market conditions than other publishing categories. Even so, the sales figures sparked a debate that continues to be discussed 5 years later. Given the amount of attention surrounding Meghan at the time, many people expected The Bench to become a highly visible release that readers would find hard to ignore. Yet, critics of the book argue that, despite the publicity, it never seemed to generate the level of excitement that some had predicted. The reported first-week sales figure of 3,212 copies in the UK became a focal point in discussions about whether the project connected with the audience publishers may have hoped to reach. The book was presented as a story about the special connection between a father and son, told from a mother's perspective. On the surface, that message was intended to be warm, personal, and family-focused. However, some commentators quickly pointed out what they saw as a difficult contrast between the theme of the book and one of the most widely discussed aspects of Meghan's personal story. For years, Meghan's relationship with her father, Thomas Markle, had been the subject of intense public attention. Their estrangement was covered extensively by media outlets around the world, making it one of the most talked-about family disputes connected to a major public figure. As a result, some readers viewed the book's focus on family bonds through the lens of that highly publicized situation. Critics argued that there was a tension between the book's message and the family circumstances most people associated with its author. Whether readers consciously thought about that contrast or simply reacted to it on a gut level, some commentators believe it influenced public perception of the project and became part of the wider conversation surrounding the release. But looking back 5 years later, the bigger story may not be the first week's sales figures alone. The anniversary has prompted renewed attention on the broader commercial journey that followed. The reported Penguin Random House agreement was said to cover 4 books. The Bench was one of those projects, and Harry's memoir, Spare, was another. That larger publishing deal is now being examined as a whole, with many observers asking how the overall plan has performed compared with the expectations that surrounded it when it was first announced. Unlike The Bench, Harry's memoir Spare became a major commercial hit, selling millions of copies around the world. The book arrived with a powerful selling point. Readers were promised personal accounts, royal family insights, and Harry's perspective on events that had already been dominating headlines for years. Interest was enormous, and the book quickly became one of the most talked about releases in recent publishing history. Because of that success, many observers believe Spare played a significant role in justifying the reported value of the Penguin Random House agreement. The memoir generated global attention, intense media coverage, and strong sales figures, making it the standout project connected to the deal. That leaves an interesting question. If the reported agreement covered 4 books, 2 have already been released, The Bench and Spare. Yet years later, there have been no officially announced release dates for additional titles, no confirmed manuscripts made public, and little visible evidence regarding the remaining projects. This has led commentators to speculate about the current status of the arrangement. Some reports over the years have suggested various ideas were under consideration. These included claims of a joint wellness-focused book involving Harry and Meghan, as well as reports that Meghan might eventually write a memoir. Other media coverage discussed the possibility of unpublished manuscript projects being developed behind the scenes, although many of those reports remained unconfirmed. One particular claim attracted attention because of how unusual it sounded. According to reports discussed in media coverage, there were suggestions that a manuscript could have been prepared to address a major, future life event if circumstances ever changed. Importantly, such reports remain speculative and do not establish that any particular event was expected to happen. What some analysts find noteworthy is not the personal speculation itself, but the business logic behind the idea. In publishing and entertainment, companies sometimes develop concepts, outlines, or projects tied to potential future developments. From a commercial standpoint, planning for multiple possibilities can be viewed as a strategy for maximizing opportunities if major public interest events eventually occur. Whether any such project actually exists, however, remains a matter of public reporting and speculation rather than confirmed fact. So what does the Beckham story really say about how the Sussex team handled friendships when relationships became complicated or difficult? That question continues to spark debate. Some people see the reported fallout as a major turning point, while others believe the situation has been exaggerated over time. Either way, it remains one of the most talked about chapters in the wider Sussex story. And what about The Bench and the 5-year look back at its performance? Does that anniversary change how you view the broader commercial goals that followed the royal exit? Were the setbacks the result of poor execution, unrealistic expectations, a flawed business strategy, or a deeper disconnect between what audiences wanted and what was actually being offered once the initial departure headlines began to fade? We want to hear your thoughts. Drop your opinion in the comments below and join the discussion. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and share the channel so more people can find our content. Your support helps us keep bringing you detailed analysis, major developments, and the stories everyone is talking about. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned because this story continues to evolve and we'll be here to cover every new twist and turn.